Human beings have been plunging themselves into cold water since the dawn of man. But officially, cold water therapy was invented by Vincent Priesnitz around the early 1800s, calling it an alternative medicine practice. But if you think about it, people like the Finns or the Russians and Ukrainians or anybody in Scandinavia who uses a sauna, they will also do this once you obviously heat yourself up from the sauna, jump into a cold lake or roll around in the snow. And not to mention that, think about all of the glacial periods that our planet has gone through and humanity has lived through as well. We would have been exposed very much to the elements, and we would have had to have been more resilient to temperature than right now. That's why clothing was invented, because things got way too cold. So we have actually recently found out that there is a cellular process that a human cell has to stop itself from freezing in sub-zero temperatures. And we found this out because of a guy called Wim Hof. Now, most of you have probably already heard of Wim Hof. He has taken the internet by storm. He's a very interesting guy. He's a yogi. He has traveled the world. His wife committed suicide, and to deal with that suffering, that discomfort that he was constantly feeling, he found a way to break through it, and he's been studied scientifically for his amazing feats. And so everybody said that he was a one-of-a-kind guy, and then he just taught a bunch of volunteers the exact same things that he knows. So that's how I found out about him in the very initial stages of Wim Hof years and years ago. And he was a very, very interesting guy, very charismatic, and he started this whole idea of the cold water therapy and also oxygenation. But I'll touch on that one time in the future. There are a lot of benefits to cold water therapy. Number one, the benefits on the brain, not to mention the neurogenesis that happens when your body goes into a survival-like shock. There are also the benefits of the added neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine being increased for the next few hours. So you have a natural dopamine fix, where if you have shocked yourself from the cold, your body produces not only the neurotransmitters, but the endorphins, which also have an antidepressant effect, but also you will see a stimulation in the brain for neurogenesis. Number two, it drains the lymphs. So your lymphatic system is a system within your body that deals with metabolic waste. Metabolic waste is when cells do their thing and then they take a crap, and that crap is then cleaned by the lymph system. And so that's any cells within the body, like your muscle cells, your cardio cells. Anytime there's cells dying, anytime there's cells slacking, your lymph system is also the one that produces your white blood cells. So it's like a lot to do with your immune system. And so when you expose yourself to cold water, like for example, if you're having a cold water shower and it hits places like your lymph nodes here, or your lymph nodes under your armpit or in your groin, all those areas, the lymph nodes hold a lot of that metabolic fluid, and when you do a cold shower, it drains them, and that exits, and eventually, when you go to the bathroom or when you sweat or whatever, it will be released. So that's a huge benefit. Number three, its effects on the immune system. So when you have that cold shock, your body releases something called a cold shock protein. It's also very anti-inflammatory, and inflammation tends to be the start of all diseases. So if you can just get that chronic inflammation in your body to be nullified, it can be very effective at treating many autoimmune diseases where the immune system is actually overactive and it's attacking other parts, and there's a chronic inflammation that happens in the body. So cold water therapy can be amazing for that. Number four, mitochondrial health. So your mitochondria are your energy factories in your cells. So you're obviously composed of millions, billions of different cells, and each one has different functions. They have different kind of like superpowers, and the mitochondria in your cells produces something called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And this is the most purest form of energy in your entire body, like all energy that turns into you being able to think, you being able to act and walk. Doing a cold shock shower or a cold plunge, it actually makes them grow much better. Not to mention, obviously, fat is being burned. You have a lot of high quality fat, like keeping your organs nice and snug the more you do cold water therapy. Number five, the benefit to your cardiovascular system. Now, this one is huge because us guys with ADHD, especially if you're taking some sort of medication, your cardio system will suck. So like your feet will be cold and you can't sleep. If your feet are cold, but your circulation to your lower body isn't that good, cold hands, all of that can be directly from medication or some other symptoms associated with ADHD, like anxiety. Now, when you do this, what happens is your blood vessels, they constrict and they dilate all over the body. And when your peripheral blood vessels, so the ones like the capillaries and the veins and the arteries in the extremities of the body, when they get very, very cold, all of them constrict and your skin goes white, and all of that blood rushes into your core and into your organ center. And when this happens, you're oxygenating those organs, which is super, super great. But also what's happening is, because of that extreme super constriction of the blood vessels, they will relax. And then if you do this every single day, all those blood vessels will constrict and relax, constrict and relax. It's like a workout. You will get a much lower chance of getting cardiovascular disease. It makes your blood vessels more flexible. It also stimulates more blood vessels to be grown, angiogenesis. Number six, The benefits on hormonal health. Now, it has long been believed that if you will take a cold shower, you get a spike in testosterone. Then they did some studies and said it's only after the first 2 weeks of doing the cold water, it boosts your testosterone. And then they did even further studies, and we now know that the problem is you can't have a cold shower right after the gym. You can have a cold shower and then work out, but the inflammation is necessary for strength gains and for muscular fitness. It will also increase your growth hormone, which is fantastic for getting muscle, revitalizing your skin, your nails, just rejuvenating your body. And also your adrenal function will be much better, because after you've had that cold shock, you'll be far more relaxed and you won't have a fight or flight response as frequently. We suffer from like anxiety and from just tenseness, and so this can really help with that. Number 7, mental toughness. You learn to breathe under stress, and you really develop the warrior mindset, because the first couple of times you're doing this, you will be so uncomfortable from plunging in that you'll be unable to start. It's so scary to start a couple of times with like a cold shower, because you're gonna get really cold. The first couple of times are really bad, but then once you keep working at that, you keep pushing yourself and breaking through that discomfort and doing what makes you uncomfortable, it becomes easy. And then you realize that you've now built like a mental framework, like an actual mental structure in your brain, that when you feel something is hard to do, you're still able to now do that thing. So you can use this for other tasks, not just having a cold shower, but like the mental toughness it gives you and that warrior mindset, absolutely valuable. That is why it is very good for people with ADHD, because your dopamine and your norepinephrine will go up, which is great. Like ADHD medication does this, and so when you do this, it can be comparable to that similar mechanism where your body produces more of these valuable neurotransmitters, and for people like us with ADHD, they are even more valuable. Endorphins with the antidepressant effects, the mental toughness, which is what we struggle with. One of our biggest problems is that we know exactly what we need to do, but for some reason we cannot do that thing. We don't have that drive, that breakthrough through inertia. And this is one of the ways that you can learn to do that. You can just jump head first into something and deal with it as it's happening. And that is a valuable skill to have for anybody, but especially for us. Your testosterone will go up, your growth hormone, you will feel more aggressive, you will have more of a drive, you will have more ambitions just for doing this. It is going to give you invaluable growth. So there's a bunch of different types of cryotherapy. So you have your cold shower. You can do this at home. It's great because it's cheap. It's easy to use. The only problem is it doesn't get very cold. And if you live in the city, it really doesn't get very cold. Depends where those pipes are running through and if the sun is hitting them. There are some devices you can use like this one. I've invented it myself. So essentially you have a little canister. You put the ice in there. And then this is a little attachment that you actually put into your shower. So one goes in the other, clips on, and the water now will run through this where the ice is, and it will make it super cold, and then it will run through into the actual shower head or the stationary shower head that you have. There was another company doing something called like a glacial shower head, which can also be really great. I don't know if they shut down. I saw an advert which kind of sparked my idea. So that would be really great to make it super cold. You have the cold plunge. So the cheaper version of this is buying like a kiddie swimming pool and filling it with ice. Or if you live in a very cold environment, just jumping in it in the morning when it's super icy and cold. I have actually done this where I've had to scoop ice off like a little kiddie pool. The great thing about this is you get a full body immersion, and it's just much more effective. It really is. If it's cold enough, it is very effective. You come out, and like sometimes I've just literally got a boner just straight away from coming out, because it fills you with so many like feel-good chemicals, and you just feel very driven and ready to go. And so that's fantastic. If you ever want to just have a middle of the day moment where you just refresh yourself, your brain, and to continue the second part of your day, just have a cold plunge. There are also cold plunges where they make the water cold for you with a refrigeration unit. You could probably make your own. I myself have worked in the trades, and I don't think it's really that difficult. The cold water tank is very expensive. It can be in the thousands of USD. And the problems with it as well is algal growth. Think about it, if it's always outside and you're dipping your feet into it, eventually little seeds of algae will be all around, and it will grow and it'll get green and nasty, and you'll sit in it and it will, like, you'll see the algae kind of touch your body everywhere. Disgusting. So you have to regularly change the water. If it's warm outside, it's so hard to get them cold. If you just throw ice in it, sometimes it will melt and it'll still be lukewarm. So there are disadvantages to this as well, and you will need some space also to work with it. Then there is the really professional cryotherapy machines where you go in and they've got like that little chamber, your head's there in a little cabin, and the liquid nitrogen cools the air really cold, like it's like minus like hundreds or something, I believe. It gets super cold, and just you're in this environment. It is super effective. This is the one I would really recommend for people if you have access to it. It can be quite expensive. Some people have their own cryotherapy chambers in their house. And then of course there is outdoor swimming. So if you have access to a lake, if you have access to some sort of glacial drip lake, that's ideal. If you're in the northern or the extreme southern hemispheres and you can just jump into really cold ocean water. If you have a sea that's particularly cold, a lake, a river, anything you've got where you can do that outside and in nature, I think that's going to be even more effective because of the grounding benefits and the benefits of just being in nature, forest bathing, getting that green exposure in your retina. It's very beneficial, especially for us with ADHD, because we come from a long line of hunter-gatherers. My own personal experience with this is when I was young. My mother, she's a herbalist, she's a bit of a health freak, and she just raised me being very much aware of these kinds of things. As early as maybe 3 or 4 years old, we were taking a ladle of cold water and splashing it on myself, and I got like these old photos from me and my brother doing this in like a little bath, and it wasn't much, but it was getting us used to that shock, and it felt great. And my brother carried on doing it. I stopped for a while, and then I got back into it a few years ago because I was in a very hot environment at the time. I was in Sicily, and it was just super cold, and you just do that and it's lovely, and you come back from that and you just develop that habit. And so I did that as well. I then bought one of those kiddie swimming pools, the little cedar ones where you can go in. I'm now in Vancouver in Canada, and so here it was so cold I had to lift up the ice and slam it off and go in, and you start at just 30 seconds, and then you can do a minute, and then you can do more and more and more. Eventually you're doing competitions and it's like you're doing 10 or 15 minutes. If you want to start right now, you go have a warm shower, and at the end of that warm shower you turn the knob to cold, and you just stand there and you take that, and that loss of control, that feeling of facing discomfort head first, dealing with things, bravery, courage, whatever you want to call it, it develops and it grows, and then you can use it for other parts of your life, obviously. And so just start with turning the knob cold, feeling it, getting used to it, and associating a positive emotion with it. Because if you feel like you enjoy what you're doing, I've had times where I come out of the shower and I'm laughing because of how happy it's made me. It just felt so great. And if you can associate that, you're going to have more of a time to do that thing more often. So in this case, it is paramount that you associate that and you do that, and then eventually you have just cold showers, or cold showers every now and then around your warm showers. I now just have cold showers. It feels amazing. So you can start literally just there. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. I just wanted to let you know that I've actually made an infographic summarizing all the information that I've said in this video. It has an awesome worksheet where you can actually fill out individual little folds of the brain every single time that you have a cold shock therapy session. So if you fill out the whole brain, you're on a roll to making it a consistent daily habit. And every single time you do that over the course of 60 days, you are growing new brain cells, you are increasing your dopamine capacity, and you are slowly taming your ADHD symptoms. So if you want that, the link is in the description below. Go ahead and get yourself that and go get it printed.